We all want our homes and children to be taken care of in our absence like we would ourselves. Yet, the modern professional woman has to balance between work and managing their homes. House managers have played and continue to play a very important role in the lives of most Kenyans. Each and every family has enlisted the services of these domestic managers at one point or another. You might be wondering who a house manager is, as they are referred to by different names like house help, housemaid, auntie, and other slang words that people use to refer to a nanny. How you treat your house manager is entirely up to you because people are different, but the roles are almost the same in most households. Many people have found it increasingly difficult to find and hire house managers in the recent years. But once you've settled on hiring, agree on the salary and clear terms of reference. If you've hired the house manager to help you look after your children, then you've given them a huge responsibility. You must keep a very good relationship with them. Your house manager deserves to be happy, to feel appreciated and cared for. If you want them to have your children's best interest at heart, then you must have their best interest at heart too. And so you need to create a mutually beneficial relationship with them. There are different ways and means to provide house managers with proper working conditions that motivate them to do their best for your children and your family. What are their working hours? Will they be able to get 8 hours sleep each night? Will they have meals and food that are nutritious? Will they have any leisure time at all or rest days? Does your house manager have good accommodation? Everyone responds to incentives, and therefore, as an employer, you must think of the necessary ways to reward your house managers. Similarly, let them know that if they do a good job, they can eventually expect more days off, a small cash bonus, or any other incentive. Within your own extended family, be clear about who can give them instructions so that they are not overwhelmed by demands from too many people. This will also help your house manager prioritize their tasks and responsibilities. If you discover any sign of dishonesty, pay them immediately and let them go. This is Her Standards, the show that sets the tone for gender equality and women empowerment conversations. It is the show that celebrates women and the initiatives that they're doing to impact their community. Today, we are hosted at the Riverside Gem Suites Service Apartments. This is the best place for your family to have a good time, to have staycation, or just to come and do your conferences. We are very excited today because we want to discuss an issue that is very important, especially in our homesteads. We are putting our houses in order. And in order to join this conversation, we are available on social media platforms. We are asking, why can't we just get along with our domestic managers or house managers as they are popularly referred to? Now, we are available as KTN Home across all social media platforms, or you can talk to me directly as Queenie Mbori on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Queenie Saina on Twitter. I'm also available as Queen Sambori on LinkedIn. With us today is a team of women who have interacted with domestic managers. Some of them have worked as domestic managers. Others are representing domestic managers in their jobs. Now, ladies, how are you? Mnajisikiaje? Now, we are asking a very pertinent question on today's show, and it touches on the very important people in our homesteads. They take care of our children. They run our homesteads in our absence. They are a very important part of our support system. We call them house girls. Some people call them house helps. Some people call them domestic managers. They come in different names, but what stands out is that at the end of the day, they are a very important part of our homes as women, as mothers, and even as fathers, because we also have single dads out there. So the question you're asking on today's show is, why can't we get along? Why are we having trouble getting along with our domestic workers? Now, before you answer that, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, what you do for a living, if that is important. And we always say one thing that you're grateful for on this show. We are very grateful because we are alive and we are women and we are changing the world. So let me start with let me start from my left today. Yeah.
So I'm Dorcas Mbeke Musioka. I work as an industrial relations officer at Kudeha Workers Union. Kudeha is an organization that represents domestic workers, workers in hotels, workers in educational institutions, and some workers in the hospital sector. And I'm very happy to be here because at least today, someone will learn something regarding the domestic worker.
Yeah. What is Kudeha in full?
Kudeha means Kenya Union of Domestic Hotels, Educational Institutions, and Hospital Workers. Yeah, so it is a multi-sectoral union.
Lovely.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for one thing, which is I'm sure by the time we finish the show, someone will have learned on the best practices when it comes to living with domestic workers. Someone will also learn their rights as domestic workers, and also I'll be happy because it is a way of also creating awareness to the large population of our country.
You can take her word to the bank because there's quite a lot to be learned. So I'm just going to move to my guest in the middle. Unaweza tuambia unaitwa nani, unafanya kazi gani, unatoka wapi? Unaweza tuma salamu pia, kamera iko huko, usikuwe na hofu. Tafadhali tuongeleshe.
Kwa jina naitwa Judith Adhiambo Obora. Mimi tunangoja kazi. Tunaenda tu vibarua. Sasa kuhisi na hisi Kibera. Na mali yangu ya kungoja kazi ni Alingam. Sasa natuma salamu kwa watoto wangu.
Wako wapi?
Wako Kibera. Natuma salamu kwa Desi Achieng na Brian, Evelyn, Michelle, Gregory Isaac, Tamara, kijana yangu mkubwa kabisa naitwa Eric Ochieng, na mama yangu na watu wote, friends.
Mama ako wapi?
Mama ako nyumbani, Kindu Bay.
Kindu Bay. Very nice. Watazamaji wetu kutoka Kindu Bay mmetumiwa salamu na Judith na watoto na kila mtu, natumai zimewafikia.
Na kuna kijana yangu mwingine nimesahau nayo, naitwa Misak Owira Amboso. Hiyo ndio kijana yangu mkubwa, mimi ndio nimelea yeye.
Anatoka wapi?
Anaishi Rongai.
Karibu sana. Asante. Haya. Labda utampishia mic on.
Roda Siombua Mwema, mother of 4, 3 beautiful daughters and 1 handsome boy. I'm a business lady. I'm a business lady and an employer to a house manager. Thank you.
Very well. Are you excited to be here?
I'm very excited. I'm humbled. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Welcome to Her Standards.
Thank you.
All right. So we're just going to get right into it. Dorcas, you know, the process of hiring a house help in Kenya is very interesting. Personally, if I could talk from personal experience, more often than not, it is based on referral. We send word out there, I need a house help. Where can I get one? Do you think this is the right way to start? Or what is the right procedure in terms of hiring a house help? Where do we start? Are there any documentation that we need to sign? What does that process look like? And above all, when you look at the rules of engagement, what should be included in that part of a contract?
I won't say that there's this specific procedure of employing a domestic worker, because in Kenya, like I think we are still growing and wanting to be somewhere. And nowadays I've seen like people coming up with apps where domestic workers can register, and then if you need one, you can get from that specific app. But as of now, we don't have such. You get that people will call their relatives at home, others will visit the bureaus and get the domestic workers. What I would say is that once you employ a domestic worker, regardless of where you get the domestic worker, ensure that you have a written contract. This one simplifies your work, makes the relationship between the two of you long-lasting, enjoyable, and all that. The contract, make sure that it has the name, when you employed the person, their salary, the description of work, holidays, will the person work in public holidays or not, annual leaves, how will she be proceeding to those annual leaves, and all that. Ensure that every description of work is inside that contract. And by so doing, as an employer, you will have helped yourself, not even other person outside yourself.
Where do we get this contract from?
I'll give an example. Where I'm employed, when I was employed, I was given a contract describing everything I'm supposed to do at my workplace. So as an employer, you should come up with the contract, because it is you who knows what needs to be done in your house. And ensure that everything is detailed. Ensure that it is written in the simplest language possible, so that the domestic worker gets to read and understand it better, and all that. So it is the employer who should initiate and come up with this contract, and then give it to the employee. Employee goes through it. If she doesn't understand any bit, you should explain. And if she doesn't trust you in that explanation, let her go and get another person outside there who she trusts, and she thinks that she will give her the best explanation and all that.
Now, Rhoda, you've had Dorcas explaining the process of hiring our domestic managers. Is that what you do, or is that what you did when you're hiring your workers, or is that what normally happens?
Things have changed. Kitambo used not to have such things. Just look for somebody from home. Ushago kasichana kamaliza class 8 tunakaita anaendelea kufanya kazi, but now things have changed. Even the house workers, the bureaus nowadays, we find how our managers are well trained. So even they're educated. So signing the agreement, it's not very difficult. You don't need to explain everything.
You need to explain.
Because most of them are well trained and educated. So it makes work easier.
It makes work easier.
Yes.
But do you think that is what many of us are doing in terms of employing our house help? What is the common practice? Based on your experience, what your friends tell you, what you see around?
No, common practice is niletee mtoto kutoka ushago amemaliza form 4. That is what most of us are doing, and this is because maybe pesa. Ndio tena pesa ikue chini. You know, most of the house managers are underpaid. So we look for cheap labor from home. Yes.
Judith, umetuma salamu sana. Nimesikia kuna watu kadhaa umewa-mention. Natumai kwamba labda hao ni watu wako, ni familia yako. Kwa hiyo uko na familia.
Yes.
So wakati unafanya kazi kama msaidizi ama domestic worker, experience yako imekuwa vipi? Kuna wakati uliandikwa na ukapewa contract, ama ni kazi tu mtu anakuitia kazi, unafanya, unalipwa kitu kidogo, unarudi nyumbani? Imekuwaje?
Unaona Baliakedo, tunakaanga vile Baliakedo. Sasa mdosi si anakuja tu anakuchukua. Unaenda unafanya kazi. Hata unafanya hata 300 unarudi. Unaketi. Kama wengine umeweza kuongoja wengine ikuje, unaenda. Kama hakuna, unaenda nyumbani.
Inatosha hiyo hela ambayo unalipwa, inatosha?
Itoshi, lakini itabidi uchukue.
Na wewe kama wewe unatamani ikue vipi? Mlipwe kiasi gani?
maslahi yenu iangaliwe kivipi?
Naona kama mimi angalau ikuwe hata 700 per day.
Per day.
Ikuwe hata 700 kwa sababu kama mimi nimesema mimi sasa si niko na watoto na niko na wajukuu wawili, na watoto wanataka kukula. Nyumba yenye nahisi kwa nyumba hizi nyumba kibira 5000 hiyo nyumba, watoto wanaenda shule kwa primary hapo, kwa secondary hapo. Sasa unaona hata 700 bado ni kidogo, lakini unasukuma tu, lakini ni kidogo.
Na wewe unafikiria ni ukisikia watu wanasema kwamba wasichana wao wamedhulumu watoto wao ama wamefanyia watoto wao vitendo ambavyo sio halali, wewe unafikiri shida inaweza kuwa iko wapi? Inaweza kuwa ni hiyo hela ama inaweza kuwa na tatizo fulani?
Nakwambia shida sio hata hela sana. Inalingana na mtu.
Inalingana na mtu. Kivipi?
Unajua umeweza kuingia kwa mkono mzuri, saa zingine mkono mbaya. Hata wadosi wenye wanakuja wengine ni wazuri, siwezi sema ni wabaya wote. Wengine ni wazuri, wengine ni wabaya, na most of them ni wabaya.
Most of them ni wabaya. Wadosi.
Mtu anakuja sasa, unaenda kufanyia 300. Imagine 300, unafika huko, si wanakuja wanapaka gari, mnakimbia kwa gari, si ndio? Nataka mtu mmoja, si unaenda kasi, umefika huko, saa zingine unaenda mbali kabisa, ndio anasema niko tu na vyombo na manguo kidogo, na hiyo manguo unaosa vyombo, na hiyo manguo unaanza kufua, ataongeza tu kidogo kidogo hivyo mpaka utatoka hapo hata saa 10 na utatoka hata na 300 ama 500. Kama ni mingi sana ni 500. Na kama umepata mdosi mzuri sana ni 1000.
Dorcas, you heard what's happening to the likes of Judith. You know, this is I really wanted to have this conversation. Let me just be honest, because I know majority of people who have employed house managers, I don't know whether they're thriving on ignorance or there's just lack, would I say lack of knowledge? They're not well informed. What is the minimum that we should pay our house helps?
Now,
per month, per day.
Okay. When you look at, the salary of domestic workers is normally determined by the wage order. And you get that most of the time, especially during labor days, the president normally increases some of these basic salaries with a given percentage, which translates to increment of the existing salary. Like for now, the salary is 13,526.
13,526.
572
is the basic pay for
the minimum pay.
The minimum basic pay for
a domestic worker.
Okay, because the argument I've had is, why would I pay her 13,500 as, you know, the minimum basic pay? She stays in my house. I feed her, I clothe her, I take her to hospital. So, what do you have to say about that?
One, when you look at the Employment Act, it clearly stipulates that the employer should provide housing for a domestic worker, like a place this person should stay comfortably, sleep, and all that. So, because even as where we work, we normally get these allowances, house allowances and all that. So you should provide a house. If you are not doing it, kindly compensate it outside somewhere. And another thing I'd say is the domestic workers, when you are given this opportunity to go and work in a place, kindly, and most of the time you get that when you tell the employer about the labor laws, your rights, it ends. But make sure that whatever you do it based on the laws. If it is your work, do it very well. If it is the relation, try to keep it safe and well and all that.
I don't know. I have to belabor on that 13,500. Does it also involve the contribution to NSSF and to NHIF? Or how do we arrive at that 13,500? And whose responsibility is it?
The current wage order we have stipulates 13,572 as the basic minimum wage for the domestic workers. And that being the basic for the domestic worker is as an employer. When you look at the Employment Act again, it talks of statutory deductions,
yes.
you know. You should initiate the deduction and submission of those statutory deductions to the relevant bodies. Because it will be so unfortunate if a domestic worker who is a member of Kudeha Workers Union is terminated unfairly, and one of the things is that the statutory deductions were not being submitted, and probably they were deducted, you know. And as an employer, if you deducted and you didn't submit, or you deducted, you gave the employee to go and pay, and probably something happened on the way. And then when us from the union are trying to follow up on the payment, the submission of all that, we find that the thing reads blank. Then it will be at your toes to prove that these deductions were made and submitted, because the burden of proof is always
on the employer.
On the employer.
Wow, we are having a discussion about domestic workers and the plight of domestic workers, living with domestic workers in our home states. How can we get along? How do we ensure that we have done proper housekeeping? They say charity begins at home. We're just talking about the discussion around the basic minimum wage for domestic workers, and we want to take a short break, pay some bills. When we come back, we will get to hear more about this discussion, particularly what the domestic worker needs to do in the event that they feel like their rights have been interfered with. Other than that, we also want to have an intense discussion about what people have described as house helps from hell. Is it true that indeed some house helps are unfair to the homes and the homesteads where they are employed? Do not go away. We'll be right back.